It was supposed to be another edgy Howard Stern broadcast, provocative, wild, and maybe even a little uncomfortable, but no one expected.
When Donald asked me to introduce him at the Republican convention, I said, Donald, I can't, I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. He was very upset with me, and he said, no. And then he hated me. You know, then I was a bad guy.
Expected it to become the most talked about broadcast of the year. The moment it aired, social media went into a frenzy. What happened during that episode would ripple through newsrooms, political circles, and the Trump household itself. And at the center of it all, Melania Trump. For years, whispers had circulated about Donald Trump's personal life, whispers about affairs, inappropriate relationships, and an alleged black book of women that few dared to mention on record. But Howard Stern didn't hesitate. On live television, with the swagger of a radio veteran and the recklessness only he could carry, Stern dropped a bombshell that made headlines.
How can we have that kind of mentality? I mean, because she disagrees with his politics?
Around the world. What Stern claimed wasn't vague. It wasn't a suggestion. It was direct, raw, and unfiltered. According to Stern, a former Trump associate whose identity he vowed to protect handed him private recordings and text messages, implicating Trump in a series of relationships that allegedly spanned decades, some of them during Trump's marriage to Melania. Not only that, but the material allegedly included voicemails from women referencing private meetings at undisclosed locations, all while Trump was still in the public spotlight as a...
When Donald asked me to introduce him at the Republican convention, I said, Donald, I can't, I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. He was very upset with me, and he said, no. And then he hated me. You know, then I was a bad guy.
Sitting president or campaigning figure. The studio went silent. Listeners and viewers froze. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was an expose, and it carried weight. As Stern laid out what he claimed to have uncovered, producers began flashing lights in the background, warning him about the time, the censors, and the legal risks. But Stern pressed on. He referenced dates, initials, and even audio clips that played briefly before being cut for legal review. One such clip, believed to feature a woman crying and begging Trump to stop promising things you'll never do, shook the audience.
The people Trump despises most love him the most. Go look at Mar-a-Lago, see if there's any people that look like you. I'm talking to you in the audience. The Trump voter who, idolizes the guy, he despises you.
Many speculated it hinted at emotional manipulation or abuse of power. At home, Melania Trump was reportedly watching, though her public image has long been that of the quiet, poised, and composed First Lady. Sources say she did not handle this revelation calmly. In fact, one anonymous Mar-a-Lago staffer described the moment as devastating. According to their account, Melania had been informed earlier that Stern was preparing to make a public disclosure, but she didn't believe he would go that far.
People, if they're having that thought, keep that pretty guarded. Not Donald. He was right into it. Ivanka Trump.
Okay, but if there weren't, you wouldn't have an issue with it then. If they were using her to...
I don't think Ivanka would do that inside the magazine, although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so
far. She underestimated him. As Stern's words rang through living rooms and phones across the country. Melania reportedly collapsed, whether from stress, shock, or sheer humiliation isn't fully known. Some say she fainted in her private suite, while others claim she was taken to a nearby room by staff members and family. No cameras, no statements, just silence. But in the hours that followed, the internet erupted. Hashtags like #MELANIA collapse, #Stern reveals, and #Trump affairs trended. Worldwide, every media outlet from CNN to TMZ scrambled to verify the claims. Political commentators on both the left and right weighed in, some calling it a smear campaign, others calling it long overdue accountability. The White House, or rather Trump's post-presidency communications office, quickly issued a vague denial. They accused Stern of manipulating media for ratings and declared,
I like to be unique. I like to be different. I think unique, it's very rare to find nowadays, and something you want to be inspiration for other people to think outside of the box. I don't like to repeat stuff. I don't like to to follow the people. I prefer to lead than to follow.
The allegations as baseless fiction, but they never specifically addressed the details. Not once did Trump himself deny knowing the women Stern mentioned. He didn't go on record to say the voicemails were fabricated. That silence only deepened the suspicion. Melania, meanwhile, was nowhere to be seen. She canceled 2 public appearances, skipped a charity gala she was previously confirmed to attend, and reportedly asked for a media blackout on all her current movements. No Instagram posts, no interviews, no photos. Some began to question whether this was the final straw in a long troubled marriage. Though Melania has stood beside Donald Trump through scandals, investigations, and endless political storms, This time felt different. The look in her eyes during her rare public reappearances only days later spoke volumes. She looked shaken. She looked betrayed. Inside sources whispered that Melania had already contacted her personal legal team.
I don't have the courage to play.
But your prenup, is it going to be like Britney Spears? She gets $300,000 a year for every year that she's with you, or is it going to be less?
We're going to have a prenup.
So you sit down and you say, okay, Melania, we'll give you $300,000 a year for every year you're with me. If we should have kids, you get a bonus.
What do you pay for a kid?
What do you pay for a kid? Give me a ballpark.
I'll give them whatever they want.
Right.
Discussions about postnuptial agreements, trust modifications, and private assets were underway. One source claimed that Melania had secured documents to protect her son, Barron, and was quietly preparing to distance herself financially from Trump. The world began watching not just because of what Stern had revealed, but because of what it meant. If Melania was cracking under pressure, if she was genuinely hurt by these revelations, it implied something far more dangerous for Trump, that the image of a united front had fractured, that the carefully curated story of the Trump family was coming apart, and Howard Stern, he didn't back down. The next night, he doubled down on his claims. He brought on a guest-on anonymous woman whose voice was altered, who claimed to have had an intimate and transactional relationship with Trump as recently as 2018. She alleged that he promised her a media gig, a luxury apartment, and legal protection.
She said, you know what you did to me with Stormy Daniels? Do you know what you've done to me with all your vulgar talk? Do you know what you've done to me the way you pay no attention to a child? Do you have any idea of what I think about you? And then,
in exchange for silence. When asked why she was coming forward now, she said one thing: because Melania deserves the truth. Those words became an instant headline. Even critics of Stern, who often blasted him for his outrageousness, began to see the seriousness in his tone. This wasn't shock jock material anymore. It was investigative. It was disturbing. It was emotional. The fallout reached far beyond entertainment. Political analysts started speculating about how these revelations might influence ongoing investigations into Trump's finances, campaign activities, and associations with foreign entities. If these women could be traced to donors, political events, or hush money payments, it could trigger legal ramifications far beyond marital embarrassment.
What about this? Trump tweeted, referring to you, he said you are a stone-cold loser and husband from hell.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, is a guy who had sex with a porn star while his wife was pregnant. So for him to call you the husband from hell, that is meaningful.
Yeah, you made that point very well when Eric Trump went after me like that. Said,
oh, that's right.
You said, oh, wait till he hears what he hears what Daddy and Uncle Stormy did. You know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Uncle Stormy. Is Stormy Daniels a man? Holy moly! Wow, that would have been a hell of a revelation.
Sounds are very confusing, right?
And yet, Stern remained unfazed. He teased that more evidence was coming: emails, bank transactions, and even handwritten notes. "We're just getting started," he said at the close of the segment. That night, a reporter spotted Melania leaving a high-security residence in Florida, flanked by bodyguards and two women believed to be part of her private legal team. She didn't speak, but for the first time in months, she looked directly into a camera, her expression unreadable, but her silence thundering. Was she preparing for separation, or something even bigger? Some speculated that Melania might write a tele-memoir. Others suggested she was gathering leverage in case of legal trouble for Trump. The tabloids ran wild. But the core question remained: if these affairs were real, and if Melania had been kept in the dark for years, what would she do next? Insiders claimed she had long suspected infidelity, but had chosen to ignore it for the sake of her son, for the political optics, and for her own public image. But Stern's broadcast forced her hand. It made ignoring it impossible. The audio clips, the texts, the names, some of which matched those previously redacted in court filings, were too specific to dismiss. More shocking still, Stern hinted that there may be international connections tied to the affairs, with women allegedly flown in from Europe, Asia, and Eastern Europe for private.
There was no filter. I go, Donald, Angelina Jolie, she's one of the most beautiful actresses in the world. She's a 6.
Events. If true, the implications would be enormous, not just morally, but legally. The media firestorm raged on. For the Trump family, it was crisis mode. Lawyers worked overtime. Family members stayed out of the public eye. Trump Jr. made vague comments about fake news, while Ivanka remained completely silent. Eric Trump posted a single Instagram story, an image of a lion surrounded by hyenas. No caption, but nothing, no denial, no distraction could overshadow the emotional weight of that moment when the cameras first cut to Stern as he dropped the bombshell. Nothing could erase the ripple of pain, betrayal, and humiliation. Melania reportedly experiences the secrets she may have long buried exploded in front of the entire world. What happens next remains unknown. But one thing is certain: the illusion of control, of a perfectly managed political dynasty, has shattered. Howard Stern didn't just expose scandal, he shattered a carefully guarded narrative. And in the end, it wasn't just about Trump. It was about Melania and her silence, her suffering, and the possibility that behind her...
I was on Howard Stern's show as much as anybody, and he was great at that time, and then he went woke.
Yeah.
And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down the tubes, and he sort of went anti-Trump for a couple of reasons.
The public might have seen it as just another Trump scandal, one of many that seemed to roll out every few months, but for Melania, this wasn't about optics or media spin. This was about trust, about betrayal, about living through the humiliation of seeing your life dissected on national television, not by political rivals, but by someone like Howard Stern, a man once considered a friend of the Trump family. Behind closed doors, insiders described an eerie quiet at the staff, who normally moved briskly and confidently around the estate, walked with hushed steps and downcast eyes. It was like walking through a haunted house, one aide reportedly said. No one knew what was going to happen next. Melania had reportedly locked herself away for more than 48 hours, speaking only with her legal counsel.
Isn't that sweet? He's confusing me with one of his sons again. You think he's flirting with me? What is this?
I said, he's one of the dumbest human beings ever. He should have listened to his wife. What a dope.
And one close friend from her modeling days. That friend who spoke to reporters on condition of anonymity said Melania was devastated. It wasn't just about the cheating, she explained. It was the public betrayal, the shame, the fact that he never even warned her. She found out just like the rest of us did, through Howard fricking Stern. The emotional toll was clear. Melania's carefully maintained privacy had always been her shield. She rarely gave interviews, never overshared on social media, and kept her circle impossibly small. But now that armor had cracked, the private world she'd so...
Look at the way these two lovebirds interact with each other. Their chemistry, it's positively smoldering.
Please welcome our next Commander-in-Chief, my husband, President Donald J. Trump.
Defend her still today.
To me, there's nothing more beautiful than watching a man and his wife try not to smudge each other's bronzing cream, you know?
Painstakingly guarded had been dragged into the harsh glare of public judgment, and the world was watching. The media circus exploded. Cable news devoted hours of coverage to breaking down Stern's claims, inviting psychologists, body language experts.
Whether it's a searching little finger, a swat, or a hand pat, it's not as simple as you might think. And for some reason, it always seems to happen at airports. We can only guess that Donald Trump is particularly annoying on plane journeys. It doesn't get any less awkward with other forms of PDA. The pair have shared a few less than passionate kisses in public. Perhaps it's because when they do lock lips, Donald goes and makes a big deal out of it.
Experts and marriage counselors to analyze Melania's every move or lack thereof. Conservative commentators either deflected, calling it a liberal hit job, or quietly avoided the story altogether. But even those who had once fiercely defended Trump now found themselves at a loss. Howard Stern wouldn't go on national television with a story this big unless he had something to back it up. One political strategist said on air, "The question now isn't whether it's true, it's how deep this rabbit hole goes." And deep it went. Within days of the first broadcast, 2 more women came forward anonymously at first, but later corroborated by people within Trump's former campaign inner circle.
Mr. President, have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. Gay, lesbian, and transgender children, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens.
One of them had records, hotel receipts, flight bookings, even text exchanges with Trump's former bodyguard arranging private evenings. Another claimed she'd received hush money during the 2016 campaign money that had not been disclosed. In any legal filing. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about Melania's personal pain, it was about potential legal exposure. Former prosecutors began speculating on whether campaign finance violations had occurred. If hush money had been paid to prevent these affairs from going public during the election, it could constitute a federal crime. Sound familiar? That's because it mirrored elements of the Stormy Daniels case. But this time, the women weren't porn stars. They were models, journalists, even political interns. As the revelations piled up, Melania's team began laying the groundwork for what many believed was inevitable, a separation. Whether it would become a formal divorce remained to be seen, but the movements were unmistakable. private meetings with lawyers, asset protection inquiries, custody considerations for Barron. It wasn't just tabloid speculation anymore, it was a full-blown unraveling of a very public marriage. Donald Trump, meanwhile, stayed defiant, at least in public. He raged on social media, calling Howard Stern a washed-up clown and accusing the media of weaponizing Melania's pain. But even his allies began noticing something was off. He wasn't seen with Melania. His usual bravado seemed forced.
He's right about Melania. I don't know about stunning, but she definitely looks stunned. Show them together, because this is the happiest I've ever seen these two together. It's like they're on their second honeymoon or something.
Worst, his campaign appearances were shorter, his press interactions clipped, and behind the scenes, sources said, he was furious, just at Stern, but at Melania, for not defending him publicly. But how could she? Melania, in her silence, had made a louder statement than any denial or speech ever could. She wasn't playing the game anymore. For years, she had stood beside Trump, even as rumors of infidelity swirled. But this time, something had changed. This time, it wasn't a single scandal, it was a tidal wave of truth. Unavoidable, unfiltered, unforgiving, and Melania, she was done pretending. A former White House staffer claimed that Melania once told her, "Privately, I know who I married, but there's a difference between surviving and being humiliated." That quote suddenly took on chilling significance. In the following days, Stern continued, releasing more pieces of the story. A second audio clip, barely 12 seconds long, featured a man believed to be Trump berating a woman for asking for too much money and threatening to end her media future. The voice was unmistakable. Analysts pored over the clip. Audio engineers attempted verification, and Stern's legal team stood firm. "We are not backing down." Public reaction to Melania shifted dramatically. Once viewed as complicit, or even indifferent, many now saw her as a victim of